it happens on my own show too. Like I will just like ramble and like we will forget to talk about stuff. So like if you have anything specific where it's just like, and then like keep me to task and we can talk about
it. Exactly. So we'll just do the same now. So all right. So we'll get started. Hello and welcome to Mostly Minnesota Music Podcast Edition. I'm Ann Tracy. I'm here with my co-host
Heather Baker.
Yes. And we're here. I'm super excited because we're here with a glimpse of the real world to me with Doc. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this because I know how weird these things can be, but at the same time, I feel like being able to talk to people on Zoom, despite the uncanny valley thing, has actually been kind of keeping me sane. And the fact that you want to talk to me for this reason is just awesome, and I'm really grateful. So thank you for taking the time to chat with this local weirdo about the weird things that they do. So I'm honored. Good to be here.
I'm excited because you do a lot of weirdo things that I'm excited to hear more about. And you are one of the people that, as I go through my day and I think about what I took for granted in 2019 and before March, and I think, God, I miss running into Doc. You know, because we run into each other at least a few times a month.
That makes me feel good because I was actually having this discussion, and 'tis the season, like to just kind of count your blessings and talk about what you're thankful for. But we were having a similar thing about there is a bike messenger that we are really good friends with. And I want to be polite. I don't want to name names. And feel free if you were watching this, to tag me and be like, I can't believe you didn't name drop me. But like they like frequently bike around our neighborhood, and we were just kind of having coffee on the porch with the roomies and just going like, it's really cool that like this is our community. And I got to thinking about like the amount of either playing shows or helping set up shows or just working shows, like just running into the same people over and over, and you kind of get misty-eyed about the scene because like there's so many characters that like, oh whoa, this was our family in a regard. Just like running into the regulars at the Turf or First Ave or hell Palmer's, just, like it's just like these it was just so baked in and taking all that stuff for granted, and like it's just like just missing running into you.
Yeah.
Or Don or Jim, like
exactly. God, and I forget. I mean, I think of you certainly at the Turf Club, and I think of you First Ever, but I forgot about. And I went to a few of the shows at the Residency at Palmer's. I mean, you're everywhere. Yeah. You've been everywhere. I'm not going to say it like it's entirely you. You are being everywhere. I don't want it to be at all in the past tense. I want to keep the door open for the future in every space.
I used to, before I started booking that series at Palmer's, and shout out to Charlie Van Stee, because I feel like he is just like one of those people who just a good dude. And I feel like we have tried to work on several projects together that just for some reason, despite our best efforts, like never take off. But we had an idea of starting a series before I started doing Why Not Wednesday called hey, it's that guy from that thing. And so we would get like Gabe Douglas from Four on the Floor, and Charlie would do a set, and the whole idea was like to try to get all these people who are either like bartending or like working the door at all these events and you didn't know they were in bands, or people from bands that you didn't know were just like these. It's just to try to have like a night where people like would show up and be like, oh, this is pretty good. And we're like, wait, aren't they that? I feel like and it ended up being kind of like more of a one-off, and I would like to keep doing it. But now in the time of whatever this is, I find myself like, like I'm some sort of like a character in a sappy made-for-TV movie of like, in my former life.
Like, we're all there.
At this point, I would take any show. But I would love to do Why Not Wednesdays again. I hope I like, and that's another thing I've learned of just like, if anything has made you happy, be it like a place or an artist, that has kind of given you a good memory, like just like go out and support them. You know, like if there's a venue, buy a coffee mug, buy a T-shirt. If there's an artist, like most of us have tip jars, you know, of just like I really we keep losing more and more stuff. So it's just like, yeah, make an extra effort to go out and support those things, because
It's an investment. It's an investment to what because we sure as heck want y'all to be around when it opens up again.
Yeah, and there's something about those places. I like, that's like I don't know. I don't want to get sappy, but there's like that is like my church. Like those places that they just have a feeling, those stages, and it's not about the size. There's just like, you can just tell when you walk into a place, and like good, like just memories have happened, vibes, if you will, like just the ghosts of good memories. Like certain places just have those feelings, and I hope we can gather in them together sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Here's hoping. I'm going to give you an opportunity to touch that, since it's on topic, and I think it's important to remind people that it is an investment, because you are on Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon has been cool, because like I started doing that when I started Theyself, and I've played in a bunch of different bands and a bunch of different genres, and Theyself kind of was like an excuse to just let the creative id be like every crazy idea that was like impractical to do in a band setting, where it's just like, let's gather together in the middle of the woods, and we'll record outside, and we'll write the songs, and like, you know, just like you have friends and like really talented people that work with you. It's just like, hey, we love you, but like, I don't see why we can't have a roof on this this whole thing. So Theyself was just kind of like an excuse to just have all these like, yeah, let's do it. Like whatever idea that's kind of scary or gets you excited. And it's all just kind of performance-based stuff. But I realized the elevator pitch on that, like when you're creating stuff that's kind of weird for the sake of being weird, it's a tough sell. So I just wanted to have a space where it's just like, oh yeah, there's music, but there's also this weird film element that's, you know, and like when you put them together, there's like a thing. You can dive into all of it. You can just take the parts that you like. And the first thing I did, The Wolf Tower, which kind of tied into No, which was like a short film I did that was timed to the music of that EP. That was a thing that was like, I was kind of trying to make like how my anxiety felt in a sound. And I wanted to see if I could turn my least favorite feeling in the world into something you could dance to. So when you listen to that, like it's deliberately kind of unsettling a little bit. In fact, like I recorded that all with Apple earbuds as microphones. Because if you actually wire a pair of headphones and put it into the input jack, it will function as a microphone. And it's when you mic literally everything, that's how it sounds. And when you add the film element, I was just like, you know what? It's hard to kind of talk about all this kind of weird stuff where it's just like, hey, that's kind of making me uncomfortable. It's like, good, and here's why. You know, like Patreon kind of felt like a fitting place to just like, it's not it's the kind of stuff when you explain it to grandma, they're like, that's nice, dear. You know? I figured it was just a space of just like, hey, I do short films occasionally. I also just kind of have like these performances that I record, just kind of creating vibe. But I also host like every playlist of my radio show. The archives are all on there. And I do other things, like stuff from other bands, other recordings. Like there's just a lot of weird things I'm involved with. So it kind of felt like a fitting place to just, okay, here's a place where I can host all of it and not feel like I have to sell people on anything. Like it's just kind of like a, yep, there it all is. And you can take as much of it or as little of it as you want.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I like about it. Because I admittedly do make stuff that is not for everybody on purpose.
Right.
I'm okay with that. But, you know. So yeah, Patreon is kind of a cool place. I also like Bandcamp, just because that's just been my go-to of like, in fact, like everything on streaming services, I actually give them the MP3 quality, and then the full wave quality is on Bandcamp. But in retrospect, I don't know if that was a good idea, because I think most people just just stream from the services anyway, and don't really do the deep dive into Bandcamp. But
I go to Bandcamp.
yay! Thank you, Heather. Okay. Cool.
You know what I find interesting, Doc, is that you said Wolf Tower was the panic attack, a sound of it.
Yeah.
And you're saying 2020. I'm like, what the hell was that going to sound like? Because
it's honestly okay. So in a weird way, the reason I started with Wolf Tower was just because I have had to live with an anxiety disorder my whole life. So like a lot of the things I was doing with that were kind of like metaphorical things that like made sense to me. Like they're in there, I know they're in there, and like that is like really soothing for me, but like the casual listener might not like really care about. Like for instance, like a lot of the triggers when I was a kid with my anxiety disorder was like being worried about staying up all night. So the bulk of that tracking was done where I just kind of forced myself to stay up all night and perform that. So like when you're listening to that, like those are the only overdubs are me holding the microphone and yelling into the headphones. Like those are all one-shot takes. And same with Roost. Like I just kind of like that like vaudevillian of just like, yep, you get one take, kid, and just kind of go. Like you get what you get, and that's there it is. So like in a weird way, I was doing all these like weird rituals to cope with my anxiety and kind of like put it into some manifestation of a physical object to kind of like release that and let it go. And I was doing all these things that were like kind of triggering my anxiety and like making that thing to kind of let it go. And I was just like, yes. So now I feel like like in a weird way, I feel like one of those people from that movie Bird Box. Like when this happened and people were like, oh my God, it's so scary. Like I feel like the people who can see the monster, and I'm like, yes, you see it too. So when this happened, I was working on other stuff. And my band LPF, we actually tracked 2 records in this pandemic. And I was working on a video, like a movie project for Theyself, and considering the fact that the first thing I did was like a giant metaphor for my journey with anxiety, I kind of felt that 2020 needed something a little bit different. And I when I lost the phone, like you do the thing, especially just being a broke artist, of just like, oh God, that sounded expensive. And you pick it up and trying to go through like old cell phone demos and try to like Marie Kondo the things of just like, wait, am I ever gonna do anything with these ideas, or am I going to? And a lot of the stuff was unusable, but I came across these things where I remember like trying to learn how to live stream. I would just do these exercises where I would just leave the phone in the corner of the room and just play piano and just kind of play what I felt. And that was just, when you're isolated, yeah, that's the only friend you have is the piano. And that's kind of being an anxious kid. When I got anxious, I would, sing or pick up an instrument. And that kind of carried over as an adult. Whenever I get anxious, just kind of pick something up and kind of give myself something to do. And so when I was trying to save like old photographs, old like contracts, songwriting, you know, trying to get all these transferred, and then, you know, of course, every phone number I've had, you know, like I was looking through the voicemails, and it's just like, hey, when I was listening to him, I don't know if the fall did something to it, but like there's like little corruptions and hiccups in the audio. And so I got really discouraged. I was like, oh, this is all unusable. Maybe I just have to re-record it later and take. But there was a bunch of these like just unnamed piano files that I was just like, huh, that, I mean, it sounds kind of cool. Like it, and that was kind of how I processed 2020, was like, instead of getting really angry, I get really sad. And, you know, for me, I just was like, just go to the piano. And I found 8 of these takes that where the little gremlin or the technology where it would blip and get the file would get corruption from the damage. In a weird way, it was like the fate making an artistic choice. Like sometimes it would skip, and when you listen to the piano parts, like it kind of sounds like it's part of the thing. And I kind of liked that, like that whole metaphor of just like life and death and rebirth, and, you know, not appreciating what you have and now it's gone. And, you know, it's just like, you know, does anything really go away or just change, or, and just, you know, taking this energy and moving it literally to another thing. I thought that was kind of a cool metaphor. And since I went full on anxiety, I thought 2020 was the year, you know, I thought I was going to do something different. So yeah, I figured this was a good year to be like, you know what, let's just put out something. You're still going to feel the feels, but you can ignore this. Let it keep you company. You know, this is kind of how I coped. And in a weird way, I don't know, I kind of heard my own mother just saying like, why can't you just do something nice?
Oh God, that rings a bell.
I was gonna say,
there you go.
Why can't you just put your hair behind your ear, Anne? You know, that's like.
I was gonna say, I like just the noise, because sometimes with, you know, the vocal, especially now, it's just like too much, you know, there's too much coming at us. And then we have the piano and stuff, it's like, then it's not silent and lonely. So you covered everything. So you've helped my anxiety. So thank you.
Hey, that is what I like to hear, because that was kind of the goal with this. It just felt like the right time to do something like this, but also when we're not in the pandemic, like it's the kind of thing I want people to put it on if they're writing or painting or just cooking. And I've had a lot of friends, including artists that I respect, already email me and like, this is the kind of stuff I put on when I write. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Like, that's literally what I want you to use it for. And it's kind of, again, that's a weird elevator pitch as an artist, to be like, yeah, it's my new record. Don't pay attention to it at all. Yeah. Don't do a deep dive. Don't think about it really at all, really. But that, yeah, just kind of, I wanted something to just be like, yep, it's vibe. It's something that's not gonna be, you know, like, I have existential angst that I'd like to share with you. It's like, share this moment with me. Let's just be here together, because it's, you know, I think I know I'm paraphrasing, or doing an homage, which is actually French for blatant ripoff. But like it was like, this is the year that we thought we were going to get what we always wanted, but it turned out to be the year that taught us to appreciate what we have. Don't know who said that, but that one really hit home. And for next year, yeah, I'm definitely cooking up something, but this just kind of felt right now. And so here it is. And thanks for listening to it.
It's funny. It takes, and and I'm kind of going to ask Heather this a little bit, because when I listen to it, especially, and for some number 2, that's the one that it must be the one that's on my play first or something, but I listen to that one the most. It takes me to a very specific time and place. from years ago. And it's weird that you're here and I'm going to ask Heather, but does it take you to a time and a place too? I mean,
it just gives me ease. And I thought, since I've just started painting and stuff, that's what I thought. Like, I don't like quiet, because then my head just goes and goes and goes. And I don't want words, because then I get hung up on the song. It was perfect. I don't like creative and relaxing and ease and all the good things.
I'm the same way, Heather. Like I don't know. I don't know why. I like just having something in the background is kind of comforting when I'm doing that. I don't know if it's the ADD or the anxiety, but like it's in a way kind of having something in the background is giving those things something to do. Like you're playing with a dog or something. It's like, here, go chase that while I work on this. So like I kind of wanted to just, it's like, all right, well, this is how I work. And I wasn't really intending to release this, but I said that about like the last 3 things I did. So it was just like, no, this is something I like using, and it kind of felt like, oh, I should try to take a stab at it. Especially since I've been trying to be more intention based and coming at things from like well, what is the intention behind this performance? Where and how are people going to listen to this? When the last record was like, my intention is you are going to see what's in my head, and it's like, not always. That's not always. It's that record, I'm sure some people listen to it and were like, wow, I'm sure they're really fun at parties. But yeah, so I really appreciate you saying those things, because I had those intentions in mind, and just to hear people say, get it, like message received is like, cool, great. That's, I think, exactly why we all do this, is like this is our community, and we kind of do a lot of subtle things when we just kind of engage in anything creative. And I know myself personally, the first thing that I went and reached for in times of like, I need some comfort, were my favorite records, or, a good book, or like, I immediately took refuge in art. And I kind of forgot that, like, oh yeah, it can be anything. It doesn't have, we don't have to be, I think with this project was kind of the antidote to the line of thinking of all the bands I was in for the last 10 years of just like, okay, you don't have to make it. Like, you started doing this because it was the only thing that calmed you down. And now it's just another thing that is freaking you out. So a lot of the Theyself stuff is kind of deliberately not for everybody, for every time, or for every place. It's more of like a specific zone. And yeah, just kind of a place where like you especially with Wolf Tower, where it's just like sometimes I would get like Spotify things. It's just like, these amount of people listen to Wolf Tower more than anything. I'm just like, get help. Whoa, like that when I mixed that, it drove me insane. Like, you're not supposed to stay there. You're supposed to go there, and then it's like a hike. Like, when you're done, you think about where you went. Like, like I want you to not stay there forever. Just like a place that you can visit, a phase that you can go through. And and I just wanted this. We had enough stress this year. Let's not talk about anxiety. let's have at least something gentle that we can kind of move into the next phase, because we've been through enough. We've all been through enough.
I was gonna say now I'm worried about myself because I love Wolf Tower. So I'm like, oh
Well,
shit, how messed up am I?
I no, I appreciate that, but like it's definitely not something I intended to be listened to like on repeat forever. Like to me, like I almost feel like that's a record, like that would be like the Ludovico technique of like yes, listen to this for 12 hours. Oh God, I hope I'm not giving the FBI any ideas. If that's why I get the Medal of Freedom, I'm gonna be pissed.
So that ought to up your numbers on all of the Spotify through the roof. You've been heard in 8,000 countries.
This deep state thing runs deeper than we thought. No. Oh God, don't let me go there. Even if I'm being facetious, and I am. I forget that we are still on the internet. We're still being recorded. This is not this is not the green room.
Right. We're not in anybody's basement right now. Yeah. It's no clown lounge now, baby.
Yeah. One day. Yeah.
Oh, that would be so fun to be at the Clown Lounge.
I think it's gonna, not to steal the Biden thing, but I think we are gonna build it back better. And I think I also, not to be like school marmy, but like I hope we all learn something from this. Because like when we do get back to doing things, I hope I don't know, I hope we learn something, I hope we are all a little bit nicer when we go out in public to each other. And we can start that now, by the way. Like it costs nothing to be nice to people working retail. They are just doing their jobs. Stop being mean to people doing their jobs. Holy cow. The YouTube videos I see from you people are, oh my goodness, just be nice. Just be nice. And so when we're allowed to congregate again and have concerts, I hope we can have a more celebratory atmosphere. And like it's like, yeah, we all miss this. Let's cherish it. Like you are participating in it. Like we're all in this thing together. And I think the artists and fans have definitely tried to come together and do that, which is cool. But yeah, so I think we will be sharing some cool nights when we get back. But it also kind of opened the door for, I guess we don't need to do something in a venue every single time. That's cool too. I am looking forward to the rugged DIY, the scrappy kids who, they don't have any other option. Because that's, how I toured for the last 10 years. I'm interested to see where the DIY scene goes, because I've already seen and I've already attended with a mask, some pretty cool events curated by some local artists just in like community gardens, vacant lots. I don't know if you're familiar with Zoci de la Luna, but they've definitely curated some things where it's like, hey, we're going to cap it at 50. Everyone has plenty of space. It's outdoors. And so like, it's been really inspiring to just watch the community create and actually come together and do some cool stuff. And there's a lot of cool things happening. So as a person who hosts a radio show, I am psyched and I want to get to the bottom of it. But also as an artist who uses, that for inspiration and fuel, like totally psyched, because like everyone in this town is good. It's insane for how tiny it is. It's insane. And the fact that we are robbed of those people's presence. And it didn't have to be this way. It's I understand a lot of people's frustration, but use that to create something cool moving forward. It's just, That's what I will say about that.
Well, and I think it really opens the door to, and I like yourself, I have a wide interest in music. For a long time, I used to go see a lot of dark ambient noise,
Love
at
that.
Secret
Yeah.
Service and some of
Yeah.
those very
Yeah.
underground places. Subsequently, one of my favorite venues of the summer was Under the Bridge on the Greenway, and they would do some show. And that's great for seeing Paul Metzger. That's great for seeing John St. Paul. But I mean, it's great for seeing some of that out there music.
Yeah.
Do I want to see the Cactus Blossoms there? I'd rather see them on the stage. You know what I'm like? I guess I've seen them at Franconia Sculpture. There's a time and a place.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think we're opened up to there are a lot more places. And we
Right.
all know there's a hell of a lot more time than we ever thought possible in the universe, as we all know.
Absolutely. But like, to me, that it just comes back to intention. Like I think before, like there was a lot of the industry aspect on like either selling drinks or making as much money. So you would see a lot of artists where it's just like, yeah, we finally made it. We're going to get this artist on the big stage. And it's just like, sometimes that's not always the intention. Like sometimes the intention is to be performing under a bridge downtown.
Yeah.
And I think being allowed to explore that, I like, if you need a silver lining, yeah, that is pretty cool. And I hope we see more of that in the future. I hope we, like, instead of trying to like determine a value from performers and artists, I think we should just let them dictate their value to us and let them be them and let them like trust their judgment. And because it's like you watch a movie on Netflix, and movies are great, but like you forget there's like a whole experience about just watching something in the cinema with strangers. The intention of coming together and like taking in a piece of art as a community. And I mean, if art is going to make a statement, it's got to be involved in a conversation first. And I think this has kind of showed like, oh, like it removes so many aspects of the conversation that we're allowed to go back. We're like, well, wait, what are we doing any of this for? Like, what is our intention behind, like, why am I? And so I think I'm going to be more interested. It's just like when I want to see like a rager of a party band, like, yeah, I'm going to be involved in that. But sometimes I want to like get some wine and stand in a dark corner and like, there's a place for all of that. We don't have to compete, we can just let it take it all in as it comes, So yeah, I don't know, or maybe that's just an active plea for for like if I get a little too weird,
give room.
It's just like, well, you should have saw me under the bridge. It was a much better set.
It's true, and just as there are so many awesome musicians and amazing artists and performers of all ilk in the Twin Cities, there's an audience for everyone. Yeah.
I tell my students that a lot of and background. Been if I'm not playing shows, I'm either helping other people set up their shows or I'm teaching people how to throw their own. Instructor with School of Rock for a while, which is weird because it makes me feel like an LCD Sound System lyric, because a lot of my former students are like in the papers now,
Nice.
Which pretty cool. So yeah, shout out to Vile, Keep for Cheap, Bugsy, Bruce
Nice.
Violet. It's really cool to watch you guys do what you're doing. But I would tell my students that a lot, of just like, hey, as someone who has made a career for themselves, doing a lot of stuff you might not have heard of, those people are not your competition. And anytime you see someone where it's like, oh, they're famous and they suck, it's just like, okay. First of all, that's not true. They don't suck. It's just not for you. But if you hate that and you see that there's an audience for that, that just means they're just going to love you. If they can make it, you can make it. And it is not a pie. When you see an artist getting love, that doesn't mean there's less love in the tank. It just means that there's a diverse palette and people like different stuff. It's like a food truck event. People just want to try a bunch of different things that they haven't tried before. And it is cool watching people mix genres and watch genre become slowly irrelevant, which is something that I've been believing for years. But that's neither here or there. But yeah, like I think moving forward, I'm excited to see what we come up with when we're allowed to do this again, because I think there's a lot of good things coming out of this, if we let them, you know. Yeah, I don't know, but I'd just be glad I'm not the one making the decisions on it. I'm glad I'm not into politics. I'm glad I'm not the G. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can leave it to them. That's
yeah.
no, I even thought you meant more locally than that. You know, just
Oh,
it's yeah, you know, just you know, have the freedom to go see music, to do things that other people aren't doing, that to perform where other people aren't performing. I mean, it's
I think I've definitely said that to students and friends and myself for both macro and micro occasions of just like, yeah, because sometimes it is frustrating when there is so like the land of 10,000 bands, you know, you can be like, it's like, yeah, it's just, you know, but that, you know, I've always been an artist that like was, you know, like the first press Fairfax got was in the UK before we got any local press. People like outlets in Wisconsin and Iowa and radio stations like in other states were playing Theyself before anything in Minnesota was playing. So like I've always just kind of said like, yeah, like you just haven't met your fans yet. It's nothing against you. It's just, you know, you haven't met the right people, and there's plenty of places to go. It's a weird thing because it's just like I feel like the industry capitalizes on dividing people and conquering their markets.
well,
When in reality,
tried and true.
Yeah, like when in reality, like we're not really competing against each other, and in fact, if we keep advertising each other and lifting each other up, it kind of works out. So but that's, you know, just my point of view that I've been, you know, corrupting the youth with.
Well, I think, you know, Heather, some of our favorite shows are the best bands of the, you know, something where it's a mixed bag of, you know, and you know you're going to go see this person, and that's awesome. And you don't know the other three people, but be there for the other three people because they're going to be the ones you go see.
Yes. You know? Absolutely. And we are serious. We have an embarrassment of riches in this town. That's kind of the thing I would try to do with the Why Not Wednesdays when I was booking Palmer. Was my whole thing was to try to find acts that either you don't know how well they go good together, or there's like things that are so polar opposite that the third act is the thing that makes it all make sense. And everything in every person on those lineups are people that like in that showcase or my radio show, like these are just people like I'm just a fan of. It's just stuff where it's like, no, I'm into this and I want to share it with you. And it's just like all of this stuff is so killer. So like it's just, you're missing out if you're only going to the one band, because like people who curate things, like there's an art to that. It's like kind of making your own little mixtape, and like everyone on that bill is on that bill for a reason, and you might get blown away by some stuff you've never heard of. Like there's just so many people in this city that like could knock your socks off, and just give it a chance. Just that's all I'm saying.
I think it's sarcastically optimistic. I think that is that I had never seen before until I saw at one of your nights at Palmer's and loved.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh,
There, yeah, she has a vibe for sure. And it's one of those things where like, and Palmer's is a cool place for that.
Oh God, yeah.
You can host those like it. Like I've always kind of like, and shout out to Tony Siccardi. Like when he bought Palmer's, I was so excited because like not only is he in rad bands, he's just like a really good guy who just gets it. Like he was just like, I'm not the owner of Palmer's, I'm the steward, and I'm just like, God bless Tony Siccardi. Like, cause like that is what it is. And there is like a thing I do say, because every single genre can work there.
Yeah.
But there has to be something there. Like if you don't sound good at Palmer's, you don't sound good. Sorry. You don't sound good. That's the money talking. You got fancy equipment covering. Like if you can't make your act sound good at Palmer's, you don't have your act. Sorry. All right. Oh, this might be the wine talking. Maybe I should. But I'm not going to take that back. There's a magic to Palmer's. And she's one of those people I've seen like, yes, like she can perform at like the small places where it's like, it's the intention to be quiet and listen to the songwriter. But I've also seen like her perform at Palmer's where it's like an audience at Palmer's will like that stuff. But then you'll get like a punk band that'll blow the doors off and they're just as there for it. And then you get a klezmer band come in and they're just as on board. That's what I love Palmer's about, because like they don't care what it is. They just care if it's good. And like, that's also why I like being at KFAI. I like being able to go off the beaten path a little bit and then be able to come back and just be like, see, it was all worth it in the end.
I knew where we were going the whole time.
Yeah. It's like, and the Twin Cities is just one of those places, like as an East Coast transplant, I think that's something people forget. I did not grow up in Minnesota. I grew up in the Philly area. And so I guess I'm a city slicker in that regard. I'm kind of used to the hustle and bustle and always something going on in the background. I think people from this area, as an artist who has toured this country a lot, DIY, which means like I was driving myself everywhere. I've seen a unique perspective of this country, and there is something weird going on here. Like we have everything. I don't know why. I don't know why it's all here, but it's all here, and that's not the case everywhere. So it takes touring to go like, oh man, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. But as soon as I come back from the road, I'm immediately like, I want to go back. I want to leave again. Oh man, this is why we can't have nice things.
No, exactly. I think the first time, and I'm obviously not a musician, but I've enjoyed music my whole life. I can remember the first time that I realized that Twin Cities was something.
Yeah.
And I was, well, we'll just say it was late 80s, maybe early 90s. I won't say how old I was. And I moved to London, but in the 80s, and everyone was like, wait, you're from Minneapolis? I was like, well, I am. And also in London, everyone was like, oh, that's the coolest. And I was like, well, but I guess, if you're from here, you don't realize that not everybody has, it's.
Yeah.
I certainly ended up going to First Avenue since I was 15 or 16, the all ages shows, we'll say that, but different places.
Oh, yeah. First Avenue, I mean, and I know like it might be disingenuous for a person like me to say this because I do work there, but like I also was like a person before I worked there, like it was one of my favorite places to see bands, and it's, like the first time I got to work, the stage, like it was a big deal.
Oh,
and here's the thing, it never stops being a big deal.
Great. We're in the right place.
It never gets old. But it's because it really, I don't know. What is it? Good ghosts? Is it vibe? You can just feel it. There's just something. There's something about it. like, but like, I'm not saying that because I work there. Like, I'm saying that because genuinely I feel that about that place. I feel that seeing shows, working shows, playing shows, like all the best shows I've worked, seen, or played have kind of involved one of those rooms, if I'm going to be honest. Like, you know, like there, it's just, it's a really, really, like it's a gem. Not every city has one of those.
No.
And
I had an unusual, well, the sad, I'll start with the sad part of it is as a friend of mine passed away just
Sorry to
before
hear that.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, thank you. And really, it's one of my brother's best friends. He was in a hardcore punk band, again, in the 80s.
Yeah.
And he was in high school. So he kind of played in the band from the time he was 16, maybe till 20, but probably more like 16 to 18 years old.
Yeah.
And that's just say that was more than 10 years ago. You know, I mean, but at his funeral, and that was it. That was his music career. No, he has some awesome. His best awesome story was I ran into him about a year ago, actually at the Turf Club scene in Paler, and there Brendan is telling me about going drinking with Lemmy in high school.
Yeah.
I was like, Brendan, why don't you ever talk to me? Why you always got to be talking to my brother? But at his funeral, in the Catholic Church, in his funeral, just the other day, they brought up the time that his band, Blind Approached, played before Agent Orange at First Avenue. The priest, the Catholic priest, took the time to say, and he said it like he had followed Agent Orange or Blind Approach his whole life. But that's the kind of impact that First Avenue has, not only on people who are lifelong music, you know, entirely invested. Not that, I mean, Brendan always enjoyed music, but he had his 2 years, and that was a highlight of his life, you know, just absolutely. And for all of us around, because we're like, oh, that was the best show.
It's what, and that's, I think 2020 has put me in a lot of that. There's that bittersweetness, because I those memories you have where it's just like, it's not that you're sad that you lost it. It's you realize it when you felt it, it really was just as important as when you felt it. It really did mean something. Yeah. And because this stuff it all does. And unfortunately, it takes a 2x4 from the universe every once in a while. You know,
we've had enough now, universe.
Well, now at this point, I feel like we're in like 3rd grade, and it's like we can't have recess because like the 3 kids in the back keep like talking, and it's just like, oh. Yeah. And then like you're watching like other grades get recess like out the window, and you're like,
that is such a good analogy. Right now. Oh.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. So yeah, I get that, but like I don't know. You gotta lean into this stuff, otherwise you're gonna go insane. Because my brain gives me plenty of reasons to fall into the despair spiral. Right. So if I don't give myself you know, reasons to not go there, or at least breadcrumbs to get out, you know, it's just, we all know where that goes. You're right. We've had enough of it. We've had enough of it this year. Yeah. But I don't think there should be shame about talking about it. You know, I think that is something moving forward we can get better about. But I also talk about anything at great length, whether you want me to or not, if you can get me going. So there's a.
That's awesome. Well, I'm gonna pivot only slightly, because you do so many different things and this seems like now I've ruined it if it was a natural segue. But tell us more about Deserted Islands. Tell us more about your KFAI show, because I think that
so Desert Islands is it started off as like a tongue-in-cheek idea with just because in college, me and a few friends, like our favorite movie and book was High Fidelity. So like just the idea of the making of a mixtape is a very subtle art. You're using someone else's poetry to get a point across or tell a story of your own. Like that is an important responsibility. And I had been, as an artist, and just a creative person. I've been volunteering at KFAI for a long time. Like I've been there for it might be 10 years. I don't know if I want to say that out loud. But it's you know, it's starting off like sorting the music department, and then Pam Hill eventually kind of said, you know, you should get on a microphone. And then Sin Collins, who hosts Spin with Sin. Sin is awesome. You know, like we all know Sin, author of West Bank Boogie. You know, she is a fixture of this scene.
Absolutely.
She used to do the calendar on Dakota Dave Hull's show, but I think at the time she was writing a book and doing her own show and doing this and doing that thing, and she was just like, it's just another thing. So Pam had suggested I take her place on Dakota Dave Hull's show. And I did that calendar for years, which is why on my own show, I still do a local calendar segment, because that's just kind of where I started. But yeah, I didn't actually host a show for a while. I was kind of behind the scenes. I was actually on the board of directors of KFAI for a few years before I hosted a show. And I started hosting a show when there was an opening, and I realized the board of directors work is, I was appreciative of the experience, but it kind of made me learn the hard way that I am better at this. So when the opportunity came, I applied like everyone else. I pitched the idea, and I always had this idea of doing mixtapes. And as an artist that has done a lot of awkward morning radio, this is actually where Doc comes from. When I got to roller derby, just hearing my own name mispronounced, they're like, yeah, Pete Doherty. It's just like, it's actually Doherty. And that's actually not my first name. You get to roller derby and people go like, what? Okay, you're Doc until we can find a better name for you. And that was like 7 years ago. But being in those experiences where you're like awkwardly talking with someone who is looking at you and like is knowing that they're never going to see you again in 5 minutes, of just like having those awkward radio experiences of just like, I never wanted to have a show I felt awkward to come on. So the idea of just like, well, what if the only question I asked was, what are your top 10 all-time favorite desert island records? Because sometimes just listening to that is a more intimate thing than actually talking about it. And it just kind of started off as like okay, give me your 10 favorite records, and I am going to match that with 10 records that either are autobiographical to my own experience or just something I think would fit well. So every week I just have a different guest, and I ask them ahead of time, like, okay, here's the thing, here's the rubric. What are 10 records you would bring to a desert island? And I take those records, I listen to them, and I make a mixtape out of what I think they would like. Not so much like that. And that's like kind of the weird thing. Like, it's just like, so every week I am actually making a mixtape. It is not like it's just like, I like doing that because and that way I get to invite people that I think either I'm a fan of their work or I just think they're like a really cool person that I want to get to know. And we don't even have to talk about the records. We can let the music speak for itself and just talk as people and just kind of let that be the soundtrack to like getting to know each other. But yeah, as you can tell just from having me on this show, sometimes the conversation just goes every which way. And I am completely satisfied with that, but I forget that other people might want to be like, yeah, that's great. The thing though, you didn't answer my question. So it just kind of started off as a thing of like, I want a show where I would feel comfortable going on. And I also wanted a show where I feel like I could constantly grow and just like, oh, and there's no better way to do that than have people just kind of say like, hey, this is the music that kind of shaped me. This is what's in my heart. And, you know, like I get introduced to new music all the time. And yeah, it's even labors of love are still labor. And it's just something I like doing. And I feel like I get to know the person a little bit better when it's just like, oh yeah, like I love this record. No way. Oh, I got a story about this record. Like it's just been kind of like the just keep doing easy wherever the energy feels good. And it was letting the idea drive. And now it's been a couple years, like over 100 episodes, and
Great.
I still like doing it. And I just didn't expect, like, I still feel like I just got the show, even though I've been hosting it for a few years now. That's kind of weird. And I think that's a good thing, because I still want to get better at it. And I still want to, you know, I still like the act of like, the second I get an email from the artist, it's like, oh, here's the records. Okay, all right. And then I'm looking for this. And then you're like looking, and like my favorite thing, like when I had Martin Devaney on, one of the records that wasn't on his list, I put a Van Morrison track, and immediately he was just like, this is the song my wife and I danced to at our wedding. And I was just like that's what I'm going for. Like that feeling of just like, that human connection of just like, hell yeah, man. Like, yeah, that's beautiful.
You get me.
Just being able to guess, and when it's like, oh yes, I was right. Like that feeling of actually, like it, I still kind of just get my kicks from it. And yeah, so Wednesdays, 10 to noon on KFAI, every Wednesday. It's Desert Islands. It's been I think that year, that show has helped me keep sane. Just being able to kind of commiserate with other creatives and like, how are you handling this? Because I've interviewed people who were like, well, I put out 3 albums. That's how I handled it. and then I've met people who were like, well, I handled it by doing stuff for other people, and just so it's been really helpful to just kind of, you know, just remind myself, and just like, we're kind of all in the same boat here. And we're all in it for the same reasons. That's another cool thing, is like getting to talk with these artists. It's like, we're in it because we love this. There's like, we just like, if we could do something else, we would be, but we can't, and that's why we're here.
Yeah.
But we're also here because we like the give and take, and the fact that, you know, it's all an energy feedback thing. We're all kind of serving each other. So it's been really fun to just kind of have that. And it's honestly been an honor too, you know. KFAI is a cool, cool place that I don't think people realize is also extremely special. Like many, like, I don't think people realize, like, people in other cities are begging to have something like KFAI.
Yeah.
For the Current, and we have both, you know, and hell, people would love to have a AAA station like Go 96, like RIP Go 96, you know.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
like you can be snarky when these things go under, but like at the end of the day, it's like these are good people with jobs that like this was their livelihood. And like, just because you weren't into it, you know, doesn't mean they weren't good at it and they cared at doing it. And, you know, like so like, yeah, it's been really cool to just kind of have a safe refuge of just like, all right, there's a storm, but here's our clubhouse, you know, like here's the little house of light where all that stuff disappears. So I've been really grateful to have that. But yeah, and all that stuff, not to like tarnish that sentiment by getting really gross, but like every single episode of that, every playlist, including the audio archive, I host on my Patreon. That is actually free content. I don't charge like that. That's just like all of that, every episode, you can get at it. I only bring that up because Spotify changed their whole thing where like you have to have a premium account to get other people's playlists. They only show you 50 and you need to have an actual account to get all the shows. I didn't know that. And I've been telling people like on the air, like, oh, if you want the playlist, go on online and you can't get all the playlists. So that's another reason I have the Patreon, but that is content that I don't charge folks for. Although some of the extras that didn't air, there are a few of those things, like there are interview segments that didn't air, you know, stuff with, I don't, yeah, that stuff goes on the Patreon. You know, usually stuff with swears that were
I was just going to say all the swears. All the swears go on.
Yeah, all the swears go on my Patreon, kids.
Why we all get Patreon things. Join. Let's hear the swears.
But another reason I started doing that is because I had no idea that there was a paywall for that content, and I don't think that's cool. So I'm really just doing it because Patreon lets me host audio files that are 2 hours or longer. But also I think that's kind of messed up because Spotify doesn't really pay anyone to begin with.
Right.
So the fact that they're finding more ways to squeeze paywalls into the thing is just like, come on, like, are you serious? So yeah, like all that stuff, it, like the past 2 years of shows, the playlists, the audio, the like, that's all for free. And I started doing that because I was kind of annoyed. And I wasn't aware of that until this year. And I fixed that this year because I had a lot of time on my hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's one.
Oh, yeah. Hell, we're up to date on SoundCloud right now, which is a sign that I've had too much time on my hands.
I rediscovered SoundCloud. Mainly, I forgot I had a SoundCloud. So if people follow me on SoundCloud, oops, I'm sorry. It's not interesting over there. But
there's
yeah,
potential.
Potential. There is some things on there, but there were some things I didn't know were on there. That's what I'm. I think that's what I'm getting at.
Maybe those will get moved to Patreon soon, depending on what they were.
If they're good, they end up on Patreon.
Sometimes people want to hear the bad, though. Just saying.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll keep that in mind.
Hey, Doc, can I ask if I'm not going to ask 10, but can you give us like 3 albums you would take on the desert island there?
It's so funny. This actually comes up a lot because I would have the hardest time being on my own show. Because it is such a hard question to ask, because it's just like, do I go with the records that form me as a person? Do I go with the records that form me as an artist? Or do I go with the records that I find myself listening to like day in and day out, you know? So it becomes hard. So like if I want an artist that like form me as a person and as an artist and something I listen to frequently, you know, it would probably be something like a Radiohead album would definitely make an appearance, but because like what I listen to is constantly changing, I would have such a hard time of pinning down which one. You know, but like if I had to take the criteria of something that formed me as a person, something that I listen to constantly, and something that helped me as an artist, Radiohead and Nina Simone. I don't know which albums because there's a lot of both of those artists. You know, sometimes I want the raging guitars of like the OK Computer Radiohead era, but sometimes I want like the prettiness of when they got older. But with Nina Simone, sometimes I want just like the pure gut-wrenching emotion that only she can deliver in some of the narratives of her songs. But there's also sometimes where I just want to hear her kick ass at piano and like have her band be on fire behind her and she's just like shredding like that, just like that does it for me for many ways, like musically and spiritually, but like it's hard to nail down a record. But I will just so I won't skirt the question completely, because I know I totally did that. I know I totally got out.
Okay.
So for my third, I will actually pick an artist and an album, John Coltrane, A Love Supreme. I feel like my top 10 will constantly change, but for some reason that is a record that is like a North Star of just like that record helped me become a better listener. It helped me become a better musician. It's a record I still listen to, but it's also challenging in a lot of, but yeah, John Coltrane, A Love Supreme. And then like, if you had to ask me right now, A Moon-Shaped Pool by Radiohead. But then I'm also that stubborn person where it's just like, the King of Limbs is underrated. You need to have I talked to you about the King of Limbs? But you know, and of course with Nina Simone, it's just like, yeah, like if for women, but also there are times where it's just like, oh, I want a live record, like with like any live record she did. You know, it's just it's hard. So I'm doing my best to answer and not answer your question completely.
You sure you're not in politics?
Yeah.
Not yet.
That's a good answer.
I am not old enough.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. Well, I almost feel like that's the note that we should just about end on. Also, we usually have a 1 hour. I know you go for 2 hours, but you usually have it. But
yeah, whatever is clever for you. I can stay, I can go. I'm happy to be here. I'm honored that you. It's nice to be on the other side of this, even though I think I kind of ended up just making it my show anyway.
It's not too dissimilar from, we don't usually have any kind of strict rules here. No, because it's fun to hear, and it's fun to hear about all the different things that you do. I mean, you really, because we haven't even, notice I kind of get us down to the crescendo, and then I'm the one who says, because you're in so many bands and you do the training, you do the teaching, and you do the tell us all about this and this and this. And
I tried to talk about as much as possible. And well, also this year was weird because a lot of the things I do, we haven't gotten a chance to do, you know, like Minnesota Roller Derby, we had to cancel the season. And I've been their stage manager for years. I've also curated the halftime entertainment there.
Well, and I am, because I'm going to ask you about a recent video, but when my girls were young, we used to go to whole seasons. Now the youngest one is 16, so we're talking, you know, we probably quit going as much, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, you know, probably 4 years ago.
I was probably still just starting out. I think I've been there for 8 seasons.
Yeah, our time would have crossed over just a little, because for anybody who hasn't been to the Roller Girls, I mean, I still usually go to one a year, but they're so much fun, and they are particularly fun if you got a house full of girls, you know, if you have daughters or kids. I imagine
I can't recommend it enough, honestly. And I, you know, like I'm super bummed because like I had such a good lineup booked this year. Like we were gonna do, like we had like Kiss the Tiger. We had, you know, like I mean, like we've had I don't know, next year, I don't want to jinx it, but like we're in talks if we are allowed to have a season of getting some really cool local artists. And it's always fun doing, but I can't recommend it enough. Like it's not only is the sport just killer to watch, like it's made and being along for that ride of like watching flat track derby take off worldwide, you know, like when we first started, like I was just kind of like trying to book my friends' bands, and like I just liked the culture of a universe where women ran the world.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just fit into that a little bit better, and that was kind of the place where like it kind of became a second family for me. And you know, so like that's kind of why enough people were already calling me Doc that like, I think once the music world, we were like, wait, what did they just call you? They're like, it's yeah, it's from Roller. And it just kind of became a thing that I think that's all people remembered of just like, so what do you like better? I'm like, I answer to both. They're like, I like Doc better. Is it weird if I call you? Like, and it just kind of, you know, so it's just, yeah, I recommend it. Watching the sport grow and watching teams like like at first it was just like this regional thing. And then like, I remember one year we hosted the international championship.
Oh, I remember that.
Like London was there and like teams from Australia were there and like people from Australia bought out 200 tickets in advance and they were like chanting and just like, and you know, like we had Pocket Watch. I don't know if you remember that band. It was like an 11-piece
Oh, wow.
band. Like like a lot of good people were in that band. They're now in different bands. Like Tony from Reina del Cid was in that band and Jessica from YYY and but we had Maria Issa and there was a killer lineup and we would just have like, so it's been cool to watch that sport grow and just kind of hang out at the Roy. Like I know, and I am myself included, one of these people who has seen shows at the Roy enough times where when my favorite band comes to town, I'm like, oh my God, finally, yes. Oh, at the Roy. Don't do another album. They'll come back. They'll probably be back. So I get it, but like I also have too many memories of the Roy, like that I'm just like, oh, the Roy. You gotta love the Roy. Come on.
I got to see it was for the Get Out the Vote. Maybe it was 2000. So it wasn't forever ago. It wasn't 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Day of, I got tickets at the Roy to see Beastie Boys play with Tenacious D.
Yes.
On the floor.
That sounds great. That's what the Roy is weird though, because like it depends on the band where it's like I've been on the floor and like if you're anywhere else, you can't hear a thing. But like I've also been to shows where it's like if you're on the floor, you can't hear anything. But if you're in the balcony, it's crystal clear. And it's like
it's a kiddie pool of sound.
It's a mystery. I don't know. But that must have been great. That must have been great.
It was great. Well, and only because it's on topic, I'm going to say we could give a nod to Molly Mayer's most recent video, which I believe you make a cameo in.
I sent her a message because like I watched that and I was just like, wait, is that me? And I was like, nah, it's probably not me. And then like I like watched the whole thing and I remembered the bout of when Rob Olson was like doing that. And like, it was like that, like Usual Suspects thing where you're like adding up all the things where I was like, oh yeah, that was definitely me. Like, and it's just like, and of course it's the shot where I'm just standing around doing nothing.
The shot.
But yes, it is a great video, and that record is so killer. Like I had Molly on Desert Islands not too long ago, but nice. We didn't actually talk about that video when we were on, and when it came out, I sent her a message. I was just like, "I'm accidentally in your new video," and then just kind of be like, "Oh, yeah," but like. Yeah, it's a total. Check it out because I think it's one of those things. I've noticed a lot of people were like, "Oh, I've never been to that. Like, I should check this." Like, yeah, you should.
You should.
Go to Derby. It's like it's fun for the whole family. Seriously, like and you get to see cool local music. And I don't know, but I'm really glad that Molly Mayer got to do that video because one, I think like people have a conception of just like. It's a certain genre of music when like honestly we have a house polka band like
I've seen yes
yeah like it's it's a really cool video, so check that out. It's on her site. But
you look for Molly Mayer.
Molly Mayer.
Yeah. Molly Mayer music.
I'm in it for like a few seconds so you can see me like I'm standing
the highlight clearly. Yeah.
Although I feel like the real stars are like, Baller and and Moose Def, like there's a lot of cool footage of them.
And that's when I knew it had been a while since because I was like, no, Freeze Baby, who probably hasn't skated in years.
I love Freeze Baby. A shout out to Freeze Baby. Oh my God, Freeze Baby is awesome. I have a lot of great fun stories hanging out with Freeze Baby that I feel like I need to get permission before I tell here. But Freeze Baby rules. She's one of the coolest people I've ever met. So yeah, that's awesome that you know Freeze. She had a great podcast with Boom Bay Sapphire, Boom and Freeze. Oh my God.
Geez, I was just a fan. I don't, to say I know her is really kind of putting myself where I don't belong.
If you're a fan of Freeze Baby, I don't know if that podcast is still on the internet.
I'm gonna look for that because the girls will remember.
Look for it because Freeze is one of the best storytellers. Like anytime she would tell a story, there's always like a new avenue where you're like, wait, what about the goat? When did that happen? like, it's awesome. Freeze Baby is awesome. She doesn't skate anymore, but her daughter is actually on the Bombshells, Sugar Beatdown. So she's still in the league. Like she still comes to the bouts. Like she still hangs out when she can. But she is retired. She's retired. But Freeze Baby is still.
I think we used to see her at her day job.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah. And always recognized her because especially see my girls and be like, oh,
Is it bad that I don't know if it's pandemic brain or if I've been involved with the league too long, that there are certain people in the league I only know by their derby name. Like I've forgotten their real names. To the point when I see them like in real life off of skates, like I'm like, and then it's just derby name, like, and then like, but you don't want to say that because like I know some people like they do the Duke Silver Ron Swanson thing where like they don't tell their coworkers they're involved in it. And, it's like I don't want to step on that boundary either. But yeah, there's definitely people even though I've known for the better part of 10 years, I still only know by their derby names. But I guess that might be the case for me. So fair play,
Yeah, well, I mean, this is how people know you. It's how people know you. No. So there you go. Yeah, well, we got one other topic in there, the dirt, and I can't say enough. I have a friend who skates up and for the Iron Range Maidens.
Oh, nice. Oh, cool.
Yes.
Where,
I wanted.
are they up in
on the Iron Range?
Okay.
She's in Grand Rapids.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I bought skates and I was going to learn how to skate because I was going to try out for the Derby. Although I was even back then I was too old for it. But
I still don't know how to skate.
Well, see, I was like, weird? You and I are going to learn how to skate together, my friend.
There we go. Now the stakes are low. We can do it.
Yeah, but we'll have to do it when world opens up. We'll be clutching with our masks.
yeah. And we need the mask.
We'll have brooms to
because
protect
we can
each
hold
other.
on to the railing.
That's yes. So I wanted to be it. She came to one bout with me, and then she said, I can do this. She was on the team 3 weeks later. It's like,
yeah, I think the coolest part about being involved with roller derby is knowing that I can't do it. I definitely cannot do that.
Not to that extent, man. No way. Yeah, they're good.
Oh,
Good. They're good. All right. Well, on that note, I'm definitely, because here's the other truth of the matter is, I have someone I have to feed. She got home from work about an hour.
Absolutely.
This has been amazing.
Yes, it has been super fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, and I'll quickly tell people where they can find all of your stuff because that's what we'll.
Yeah. Okay. So, like the other things I've been involved with, as far as my artwork goes, my solo project is Theyself. You can just find that at theyself.com. Although my social media kind of bleeds into both, but you can get the records at theyself.bandcamp. But at Patreon, I have short films. archives of my radio show, some photography work. I have the demos of some of the stuff I'm working on. I have the masters of something I've released, but I also occasionally put out alternate mixes. So I put those kind of things on there too. So like pretty much the catch-all for my art and music is the Theyself Patreon. But I'm also involved with, I play guitar with a band called LPF. That is ELLEPF. And so we have a few records already recorded, but I can't tell you when they're coming out, but please check out LPF. Please check out LPF. But yeah, as far as artwork right now, I have done some collaborations with other artists. In fact, I was actually, okay, one more tangent. I actually did voice acting work for a video game. So if you feel like, if that's your thing, the game Airplane Mode, I am one of the characters in the background. That is a thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool. A few of my old bands are in the soundtracks, but like I did a video game this year. There's a new Theyself record. It's called Roost. It's out everywhere. You can get it on Bandcamp, my Spotify, all the streaming services. There's also a visual EP companion to it on my YouTube channel. That is the case for all my records. And LPF, you can go to our social media and find our old record. She wrote it, but we have more stuff on the way. But that's my art. Of course, you can always follow me on KFAI every Wednesday from 10 to noon. That's where you can find me. But yeah, does that cover it? Is that, I hope I got everything.
I think so. You know what's funny? Because again, I'm the one who keeps bringing up topics too, because you just, a song that you did with Chris Holm and Heine Shevitz, that just come out on Friday or something? Like,
yeah, I had no idea that was going to come out this year. And there's been a few things that I've been involved distantly, just kind of as creative exercises. But like, yeah, that just came out. I had no idea that was going to come out that quick, but that's available. I'm also on Ben Cook Phelps's Christmas album.
The Christmas album, we talked to him, yeah.
Oh, that was, I'm glad you talked to him, because seriously, like that was one of the most fun things I've ever done. And every artist I've talked to is just like, thank God he did that. Because that, like, it's seriously, it like, everybody is on this thing. it was so fun. Like, it's like, that's a thing to look forward to. It's super zany. It's like only Ben Cook Phelps could pull it off. And like, yeah, I'm on that too. And I'm excited for that. Yeah. I think, I don't know. I hope that covers it.
I know there's more, but we are not gonna.
Yeah.
People will have to visit you to find out more, because you are.
Yeah, check out the Patreon. That is the catch-all. So like, stuff from old bands, stuff from current bands, like it all ends up there. So like, if you feel like visiting it and just treating it like a tip jar, like that's cool. But if you feel like subscribing, you will get, at least 2 things a week. But sometimes, like for instance, this Roost record, anyone who's been on Patreon has had this for months.
Nice.
And that's kind of the thing about Patreon. Like a lot of times I will just kind of do stuff like on a lark, and then it'll coalesce and become something later. If you're on Patreon, you can kind of see stuff like that before it happens.
It's cool to see the progress then.
Yeah. So like a lot of that, the Patreon stuff is just like, yeah, like there is the record that like you can see but there's a bunch of stuff that I don't really share. Like you can get that stuff too. So and I think it's just a good space to do it, because otherwise it's just kind of like it's a hard sell to put out a record and then like you know, a jar of honey for some reason, you know, like it doesn't need to make sense on Patreon. So that's kind of why I put it there. But yeah, that's the main place where you can, all these confusing little lines of things that's where they come together on with the you know, with the pin in the middle. Pepe Sylvia. That's my Patreon. That's how it all connects.
Perfect, and it does. So again, Doc, thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank you,
Anne
thank
and
you.
Heather, this is awesome. I had a great time. Thank you for having me. This is I'm really grateful to have someone cover a weird thing like a lo-fi instrumental album. But it's also just great to catch up and chat with you. So appreciate it. I really do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Hope to see y'all in person, like in
Yeah.
person.
Soon.